Crazy stunts, high stakes, and action sequences second to none are the hallmarks of the Mission Impossible series. The movies are always a fun ride, and the series seems to have improved the longer it went on. So let's review Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning on Atomic Vertigo. Say what you will about Tom Cruise, but he comes off recently as an actor who seems to like and respect the audience and wants to make movies for the audience. While this is appreciated and apparent, it sort of lingers that first hour. But first about the plot, spoiler free. The AI evil known as the Entity is attempting to take over all the nuclear arsenals in the world in order to destroy all of humanity. Yes, all of humanity. The entire world. The stakes are that high. The world is on the brink of total annihilation, and the entity itself can't simply be destroyed because cyberspace will be taken out or something. It takes a long time for Ethan Hunt to convince the President of the United States to trust him one last time and send him on a mission to retrieve the source code for the entity. A long time. Meanwhile, there are acolytes of the entity causing chaos and infiltrating all facets of government and law enforcement. Which is wild, since the entity wants to essentially exterminate all human life. And while it may seem a little unrealistic to have humans rooting for Team AI and the extermination of all human life, take a look at the internet and you'll see it's not completely outside the realm of possibility. Angela Bassett, as the President of the United States, had to make some tough decisions in order to prepare for and try to prevent the total destruction of humanity. Ethan and team are sent to retrieve the source code for the entity, because for some reason, when they combine that with a program Luther wrote, they can capture the entity in an optical drive and they can save the world. The action is intense when it finally gets started, and there are two set pieces that ratchet it up quite a bit. If a movie could make you feel cold, it definitely does during an underwater dive sequence involving the submarine that holds the entity's source code. An action sequence involving a biplane fight, while sensational, is fun, thrilling, and looks better than a lot of things coming from CGI-heavy films. Using practical effects and stunts to make these sequences, despite their improbability, grounds them in a way that makes the stakes for Ethan Hunt seem higher. Okay, so as not to give too much more away about the plot, let's talk about some issues the movie faces. While the other Mission Impossible films, and films like the James Bond series and other blockbusters typically involve ultra-high stakes, the MI films have typically stayed away from the stakes that involve the complete and utter destruction of humanity. Again, don't get me wrong. The situations in the other MI films, especially the recent ones, have typically involved the theft of a nuclear weapon and groups trying to trigger a larger conflict. While these stakes are high, it is not the imminent destruction and elimination of all humanity and civilization. Yes, these terror groups with a nuclear weapon could spark a larger global conflict and kill millions. And these are serious matters with serious implications, but they don't typically involve the immediate destruction of everything. MI movies seem to have in the past avoided at least the immediate complete destruction of humanity. I guess that one could point to Ghost Protocol, since the antagonist in the film hoped that by launching a nuclear attack at San Francisco would spark a global conflict and ultimately kill every millions and millions to restart humanity. But ultimately, the immediate stakes in that film were stop the launch of the missile. With the stakes so high, the movie tries to take on an epic feel. The first hour is a lot of setup, a lot of exposition. It seems like there is an effort to make the film like the Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur in scope, and while it is appreciated that they wanted to make a grand film and a grand adventure, The Final Reckoning's first hour could have been tighter, or at least give us a little more action early. Some of the side plots, such as the acolytes of the entity infiltrating the government, seem to be a plot device of convenience. It's obvious that when they are mentioned early in the film that they will come back at some point. Once Final Reckoning gets moving, it is fun and exciting, and to use the cliche, a thrill ride, and it really is. There are callbacks to the other Mission Impossible films, including the first one, that are enjoyable and nostalgia-inducing. The underwater dive scene, involving Ethan doing an underwater deep dive in frigid temperatures, continues to turn up the intensity at every turn. keep the AED nearby, because it is one of those scenes in movies in which you think that nothing more can go wrong, and it does. It is great fun and worth the watch. And of course, the final biplane chase sequence is worth the price of admission. You know, in recent years, it feels like films are made for the people making the movies, and not for the audience. There's even, in some cases, a blatant hostility toward the audience in many films. The Final Reckoning is not one of those films. This film is trying to respect the audience. It is trying to create an enjoyable experience of an epic nature, and you can see they really tried to create something special. But sometimes, you try too hard. In the case of Final Reckoning, they tried a little too hard. It is best to sum up the film with the word too, as in T-O-O. The film is too big, the stakes are too high, and the length is too long. So what's the bottom line? I'd recommend seeing it, but no, it takes a bit to really get rolling. Once it does, it's fun and thrilling. It is really trying to take you on a ride, and eventually gets there. It's sort of like a ride at an amusement park. Yes, you're standing in line for a long time, but once you get on the ride, it's usually worth the long wait. This is Atomic Vertigo Reviews. Please like and subscribe.